Welcome back. Welcome back. Last week, Peru's former president, Alberto Fujimori, was extradited from Chile to face trial in his home country. The son of Japanese immigrants who led Peru from 1990 to 2000, he returns after 7 years to face charges of human rights violation and corruption. So is all that a good sign, that corruption and human rights abuses are no longer tolerable, or is it just, as Mr. Fujimori insists, a sort of political setup? Well, joining me now from Madrid is the great Peruvian writer, one of Latin America's leading novelists and essayists, former presidential candidate in his own country, Mario Vargas Llosa. Mario, welcome.
Thank you, David. Good morning.
Great to have you with us. Is the news, in fact, about Mr. Fujimori, who you, in fact, contested an election with back in the early 90s, didn't you? Is the news of his extradition a good sign that the law is conquering corruption in South America, or is it not as simple as that?
Oh no, it's a very, very important event. I would say in the history of Latin America. It's the first time in Peru, and I think it's the first time in Latin America, that a dictator is extradited to face trial for his crimes. So this is something that can have an impact in the future and dissuade future dictators to do what Mr. Fujimori did in Peru. You know?
Yeah. Does this mean, you think, that democracy, we see lots of articles about democracy in South America, is it declining or upsurging?
I wouldn't say that it's declining, you know. We have never had as many civilian governments born out of free elections as we have now in Latin America. So this is something very encouraging. We have only one real and total dictatorship, which is Cuba, and then a regime that is moving towards dictatorship, which is Venezuela. But for the rest, Latin America has democratic governments, and although some of them, as the Bolivian one, is very close to Chavez, I would say that the rest, no. And on the other hand, for the first time, we have leftist governments in Latin America that are democratic and that are following more or less the model of the European social democracy, Lula in Brazil, for example, Tabaré Vázquez in Uruguay, of course, Bachelet in Chile. Leftist but democratic, and governments that respect freedom of the press, that have free elections. And this, I think, is very, very encouraging for the future of democracy in Latin America. My impression is that the model of Chavez won't prevail. But in political terms, I would say that Latin America is not regressing towards the period of dictatorships, but on the contrary, that in most countries, democracy is taking roots, well, a very imperfect democracy, but by comparison with what we had in the past, where you had military dictatorships all over the continent and revolutions, civil wars, I would say that we have progressed quite a lot.
And you said on one occasion, you quoted Jean-Paul Sartre when you said, "Words are acts. Through writing, one can change history." That really is possible. That's something you can do with your writing and other people can do. Change history.
I think so. I think that I think that literature is not only entertainment, that literature is something that can change lives of readers and have an impact in social events, in history. This is, of course, a process, and a slow process. But my impression is that writers, intellectuals, can have an impact in political life. Think in Europe, for example, Václav Havel, he has made a very important contribution.
Yes.
being a writer, being an intellectual, promoting certain ideas, using a kind of language that is new, that is persuasive. So I am in favor of the participation of writers and intellectuals in the civic, in the public debate.
And you said once recently, I'll die writing or reading, which is the same thing for me.
Absolutely. This I am certain I will.
Well, we thank you for the fact that you're also continuing talking as well. It's a joy to have you with us, and we hope to see you again soon, Mario.
Thank you, David. Bye-bye.
Delightful figure. After the break, I'll be talking to Saeb Erekat about the forthcoming conference on Palestine, and indeed on his reduced role, half as big as it was a little while ago. Join us in a minute.